I just want to take you through a bit about how Derwent London approaches a project, and we call it a journey. And we think of it as a journey for an individual arriving at one of our office buildings. And I just want to kind of deal with 7 kind of key areas. How you feel when you arrive at the reception. How do you feel about the artwork that is actually in the building? What about accessing the building, both as a regular user and as a visitor to the building? And then you actually get to the workplace, you get up to your office. And then all about the kind of amenity that is offered within the office space and around. So let's just start with the villages. This is a clip from our website, which is basically showing the sort of clusters of villages where we own property in central London. And it's our first kind of starting point of thinking about, so how is a building actually going to sit within its environment? We hold about 5.5 million square feet of office space in these 17 villages. I think it's 17 at the last count. And we always think very carefully about what the area is like, where the area is travelling to. Some of the areas where we own property have been very down at hill over many years, but many have actually come on a kind of a fantastic journey of being new entrepreneurial areas of London. So we kind of think about villages, and we kind of think about transport, we think about how people are going to actually get to their workplace. Is it going to be easy? Is it going to be not? We think Crossrail is a fantastic addition to London in terms of bringing lots of people into central London very quickly, making it easy to get to and from work without the bind of overland trains, buses, tubes and various combinations of getting in. We think a lot about local amenity and we think about what's available on the doorstep of the office. And whenever we publicise our buildings, in the letting information, we always spend quite a lot of time taking prospective tenants through, so what's in your area, what else is going on, who are the other tenants in the area, what are the synergies that you might drive as a business with other businesses in your area. So it's not just about restaurants and pubs, it is also about business. We think very hard about the public realm. London's a tough place to introduce public realm into. We are basically short of public space adjacent to buildings. You've obviously got the parks, which are a fantastic given for central London, but not everybody is on the doorstep of a park. So you've also got to think very carefully about giving the occupiers of the building somewhere to get out to. And typically people think about public realm as being on the ground floor, you go out the front door and you get out. This is a good example of one of ours, of the Angel Building up in Islington. But what is also on the Angel Building up in Islington is we've got lots of terraces as you go up the building. So once again, this is kind of great amenity space for the users of the building. And much of that space is shared space. It's not just for the sole exclusive use of the particular tenants that are on particular floors. Then you kind of get to the reception. So you've arrived in your village, you've been transported in as an individual, you arrive, and how do you feel when you arrive at the building? We're very conscious that people need to feel uplifted, excited, welcomed about arriving at work. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that the reception of the building is going to make you feel, wow, great to come through the front door, arriving at work. So we're always quite generous with the amount of space that we create within receptions. We're always debating double height, triple height, how big, how wide, and we spend a lot of time thinking very hard about a generosity of space in the reception, and of course making sure that it's actually a pleasant and happy kind of environment to be in from a design point of view. It's a Buckley building in Clerkenwell Green, fantastic reception area that we created, I think, beautiful artwork in it, and a really calm, cool but exciting kind of place to arrive at work at. And this is the reception of our 1 to 2 Stephen Street project. This is the big old EMI building, EMI headquarters building up Topical Row, which I think from the outside it's fair to say looks a bit of a brute of a building. We spent a lot of time in developing the public realm at the ground level plane. We've changed all of the entrances, we've made a much bigger reception. If any of you could walk around now into Stephen Street, opposite where the BFI used to be, I think you'll be astounded at the reception that we've created there, and this is the entrance to it. Just a little interesting story. You see the picture on the wall behind the reception there. That's a picture of the basement, which the artist that we engaged to come up with the art for the building suggested that we flood the basement a bit in order to take this photograph, and that is the photograph of our flooded basement. So we actually deliberately flooded one of our buildings, which did cause a little bit of stir amongst the more techie guys within Derwent, but we did it, and it's a great piece of artwork. And onto the art, we think that art is an essential part of what we do. We like to patronise new artists, and we spend a lot of time selecting the art that goes into our building. We think it brings a real kind of joyful feel, a new dimension to it, and adds to that design aesthetic that we want to create. And this is probably one of our best examples and one of the most striking, which is in the Angel building. We had a very high atrium here as you come in the building, and the artist described it as a drop of ink falling from the top of the roof, and that's what it is. But it's actually a seat you can sit on the bottom, but with a great big point all the way to the top of the atrium. We also think very carefully about access for the regular user of the building. We're very focused on that a lot of our tenants are in the TMT sector. A lot of their employees basically come to work on a bicycle. And the growth in the requirement for the cycle provision seems to grow exponentially every kind of 6 months. More and more bicycles are required for people to access a building. So we spend a lot of time thinking about how you get into a building, how you park your bicycle. Is it going to be safe? Is it going to be secure? That's kind of quite important when you've got a nice bike. Any of you who've got a nice bike will know the frustration of getting it stolen. Even not such a good bike, the frustration of it not being there the next evening kind of thing is a bit of a nightmare. So we spend a lot of time bringing that comfort to the users. This is a basement plan of our 80 Charlotte Street building. Some people even know it as the Saatchi project, which is because Saatchi are in there at the moment. But they're due to move out once they've moved into 2 new buildings of ours. This is the cycle route in. To the left is for the men. To the right here is for the ladies. And we have lots of sort of showers and locker facilities. So you're kind of making it a very kind of comfortable environment. And we think very hard about the detailed planning of this. And obviously you've got to fit in the loading bay area, you've got to fit in the storage and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of technical work goes into working out how to make it truly user-friendly. And this is design. This is kind of hardcore design stuff, which involves structure, which involves services engineering. It's kind of tough stuff. Doesn't look so good when it's up there. Ken's pictures are a lot better, but this is good technical stuff. And one of our next projects up is Naught Road. It's in the early stages of design, but that's on a canal. So we're having a little think about how do you access an office building via a canal at the moment. Probably won't go anywhere, but you never know kind of thing. Then, of course, you get to the workplace. You actually get into your work environment. And what we like to do for our tenants is to basically provide a blank canvas. And our kind of watchwords for this are that technically it works. In other words, it's got the right amount of cooling, it's got the right amount of power going into it, it's got the right amount of toilet provision. It can actually take a high density. If you're talking about densities of occupation of office space, some tenants would want to use some space at 1:6, some people want it at 1:14, and there's all kind of variations along the way. And there are all sorts of variations on a single floor. Over here, everybody might be working at kind of 1:6, but over there it's kind of, it's free, easy space, and there's one person in it every half hour kind of thing. So you have to think from a technical point of view that you can give that flexibility to the office space. So we work very hard at giving that flexibility. It's a really important part of what we do in creating value for the occupiers of the building. But it gives them a blank canvas. I'm pleased to say that all of our occupiers use that blank canvas. But the key thing we give them, and it's a kind of watchword for Derwent London in terms of the space we give, is volume and light. And therefore we work very, very hard to give really the best possible floor-to-ceiling height and the best amount of natural daylight coming in that you can get. And then there's the whole amenity within the building. We're very focused on giving people and amenity within the building. And this is an early example in the Angel Building, a beautiful little cafe off to the left of the reception, which actually anybody can use. You can come in off the street and use this cafe. But obviously all of the occupiers of the building also use it as a touchdown space. And we've taken it a step further on the White Collar Factory, which, as I say, was due for completion in the middle of 2016. We're actually putting a running track on the roof, and that's the red line around the edge. So all the users can come up to the top. There's a little bit of changing facilities, a little bit of kind of like get ready to do your running. But basically, it's a running track that you can do your exercise on. And it's actually something we worked with the Design Council and trying to introduce elements into buildings that do encourage people to automatically take exercise. Another way of doing that, by the way, is not to hide the stairs. You know, if you typically come into an office building, you can't actually find the stairs, and where do you go to walk up and down? So that's another big area that we're dwelling on, another feature of White Collar Factory. And then on our 1 to 2 Stephen Street off Topical Road, we believe really strongly in creating outside space. So wherever we can actually provide terraces for people to get out, have a drink, have a whatever, then we're very keen on providing that. Now, does this all end up with value? I was sent a whole load of questions by the Design Council to answer for this presentation. It was all about proving that design equals value. All I can say for us, this is the kind of journey that we go through, and it's been a very short synopsis of the journey that we go through. But we've got very little office space to let at the moment. You know, if a tenant comes to see us and says, "Hey ho, we'd like to rent some Derwent London space," well, our Chancery Lane project is pre-let, our Turnmill project is pre-let. Next up for the blocks is, and that's going to be available in. But we basically pulled together 5 principles that we saw as being really important for the occupier of an office building. And I'm not going to take you all through them because I've talked a bit about some of them. It just might be worth dwelling on concrete core cooling. That's all about sustainability. That's all about a simplified cooling system to a building. Something that's not going to be overly complex, something that's going to be cheaper to run. I've talked about high ceilings and talked about some of the other stuff, but we actually pulled this together on the basis of all of our experience of what the office of the future, bit of an overused term, but what it might kind of look like. And it's a simplified, adaptable, flexible office environment. And this is what it's going to look like on the corner of Old Street. The buildings in the foreground majority of those are refurb. You've got the new build left and right of it because of the listed nature, but then you've actually got the main White Collar Factory building that sits behind it. This is just a CGI. And we actually built a prototype of the White Collar Factory, and this is a photograph of it. We built about a 3,000 square foot prototype, basically to test the concrete core cooling, because it's kind of a bit new and some people get a bit challenged by the idea of something different rather than fan coil units and ductwork stuck on the ceiling. So we built it, and the ductwork you do see is all about the fresh air. The cooling is provided by the concrete core cooling. And we've been using it for about a year to run many events. I hope some of you may have visited it and have been impressed by the space. So all I can say is that our space goes very quickly, I'm delighted to say. A lot of that, of course, is driven by the global success of London as a great place to do work. But we think we do provide a kind of a differentiated space that tenants are very interested in occupying. So we think it does bring value. But we're not blind to the external factors, but it's about providing that kind of great product that gives the tenant the ability to be flexible and adaptable in the space. So thank you very much indeed. I hope you enjoyed that.